in this video, we're going to be talking about a case study, which is also in the book, that talks about Adam Smith, who is the father of economics, who was, is, he's a legend, would have loved Uber. And this is a great example of the invisible hand at work. Okay, so if you probably have never lived in a centrally planned economy, neither have I, but if you've ever tried to hail a cab in a major city like, like New York City, for example, you've likely experienced a highly regulated market, okay? A highly regulated market. In many such cities, the local government imposes strict controls in the market for taxis. The rules usually go well beyond the regulation of insurance and safety. For instance, the government may limit entry into the market for taxis by approving only a certain number of, so there's only a certain number of permits or taxi medallions that are approved. And this might determine the prices that taxis are allowed to charge. So this type of a regulated market also keeps unauthorized drivers off the streets and prevents all drivers from charging unauthorized prices. Okay, so keeps the unauthorized of the streets, and also as far as the prices go, they can't charge unauthorized prices. Okay, but then there has been this really big disruptive force in 2009 with the launch of Uber. Okay, and so this type of a regulated market has been invaded by this type of a disruptive force, and in 2009 this company basically provided an app for smartphones that connects passengers and drivers, right? So there was an app that connects passengers to drivers. So Ubers are not roaming around the streets looking for taxi hailing pedestrians, but they are technically not, since they're not taxis, they're not subject to the same regulations, but they offer much of the same service. And Ubers are really convenient because you can be, at a house on top of a hill, or you could be, it could be raining outside and you don't have to wait with an umbrella just looking to hail a cab, or for an empty cab to drive by. It's a much more pleasant experience to remain inside a restaurant or inside your home and let a smartphone arrange a ride for you, and whenever it rings, you go outside. Okay, so while traditional taxi drivers did not like Uber because there was additional competition, economists loved Uber because it did increase consumer well-being. Now, let's take a look at how the surge pricing that is in Uber is a beautiful example of how the invisible hand is at work. Okay, so this example highlights, the marketplace as well, for cars and for taxis. But what happens during peak hours, for example? So let's say it's 5 o'clock and you want to head to downtown, and you go log on to Uber, and you see that the price is 1.5 times what it is usually. Okay, this type of this type of pricing is called surge pricing, and what it's going to do is it's going to decrease. So first let's think about why this even occurs. The surge pricing occurs because there is more demand for Ubers than supply. Okay, so who's demanding this? These are the riders. Okay, and who is supplying these services? These are the drivers of Uber. Okay, so there's more riders and there's fewer drivers. That's why you see the surge pricing. And so the surge pricing is a nice example to illustrate how demand and supply ultimately become equal to each other. What happens is the few riders who don't need to ride right away would just log back at another time and not demand or not book a Uber. Okay, so there's going to be a drop in riders, but the surge pricing is good for drivers, right? So if you're a driver, you would want to actually be driving at that time when you're getting paid more. So there's going to be an increase increase in the drivers on the road. Okay, so this decrease here and this increase here is going to make these two sides balance, and ultimately what would happen is the Uber service is going to be allocated to the consumers who value them the most. Okay, so this example illustrates how the invisible hand works with the example of Uber.